Hi everyone, good morning. We will wait for a couple more seconds to see if anyone else wants to join in, and then we will go kind of one craft at a time and do each tutorial. But yeah, we will identify which one we're doing and give you an opportunity to gather your materials. So I guess while we're kind of waiting for people to start, we just want to say thank you for joining us today. We're excited to craft with you guys. So hopefully it goes well. I believe you guys have the options to comment, and we do have someone looking. So if you do have comments or anything, feel free to leave those so we can see them. We're going to start with Kintsugi Part 1. So technically for this, you would need kind of a handful of supplies, but since we're doing Part 1, I'll identify all of them, but we're really only going to be using the super glue that we provided to start that looks like these little canisters. And then mine is a little glued together, but you should have some pieces. They vary in size. Some of you may have 3 kind of pieces left over from the broken plate, and some of you may have 4 to 5, depending on how yours broke. So mine's a little glued together, but get all your ceramic pieces together. Please be careful. Some of these are really sharp. You will need your gloves for these also. So you can put those on first if you want to make sure, since these pieces can be really sharp on the edges. So I'm going to put my gloves on. Put my hair back so I don't super glue it together. Okay. So, just in case you guys kind of want to see what it'll look like once we're finished, after we do Part 2 as well. This is one that was broken and we did glue and paint and everything together. So it's more of a decorative dish. But we will just start with your broken pieces. So we'll go ahead and get started. I think everyone joined in. Also, again, don't worry if you can't watch all of these. These are being recorded, so they will be on the YouTube edited, so you can keep going back and watching. So the first thing you're going to want to do with your pieces, your broken plate, is figure out how they're all going to come together, especially since each of your pieces look different. So go ahead and kind of try to fit your pieces in, because you don't want to glue a piece in and then realize like it's overlapping with another. So go ahead and start figuring out how the plate goes together without the glue. Yes, please go slow on this one, guys. They're very sharp. Okay, so I think I figured out how mine go together, so I'll kind of show you and then show you how to do the glue. So when I was looking at my plate, you can see there's a big hole missing. I realized that the smaller piece needs to go first because the other 2 shards kind of lay on top of it. So you're going to want to build up. So start building from the bottom, and then you're going to want to add pieces. You don't want to put 2 larger pieces together and then have to build down. So try and start putting it together and build out. So I'm gonna put the cap on the glue, the super glue provided. Please be careful and try not to glue your table if you have a nice table. If you need to put something down, you can. So you're gonna start with the edge that you've designated needs to go first and glue the edges that you're gonna attach. You do not need a lot of glue. The more glue you do put, the more is going to kind of spew out of the cracks and take a little longer to dry. So you just need enough just to coat the edge that you're gluing. And if some does spew out of the cracks too, that's okay. And we'll just paint over. So with the super glue, it's not just gonna like glue and stick. You're gonna really need to fit it into the piece and then hold it there with a lot of pressure while it kind of dries. Some of you may notice too, depending on how it broke, that even when you put all the pieces together, there still might be like a hole where ceramic is missing. That's okay. That's all part of kintsugi. On the one I have finished, I'm holding this down, there's a crack missing in the back that I'll show you later. That's okay. Okay. So you're just going to kind of repeat this process and slowly glue them all together. And while I'm kind of gluing my pieces together and you're slowly gluing yours, I'm actually going to have Leilani give you some background on this technique.
Okay, so the kintsugi, historians believe that it dates back to the late 15th century. It's a craft technique that has outgrowth of the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi, and it's a belief in the beauty of imperfections. So according to the legend, the craft was invented in 15th century shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa broke his favorite Chinese bowl and sent it back to China to be repaired. The bowl was returned, fixed, and held together by metal staples. The coarseness of the repair spurred the Japanese craftsmen to find a more elegant repair solution. So the creation of the kintsugi. So it's a little more elegant, and it's just taking all the broken pieces and creating a new version of what you have already.
Okay. Your super glue might stick to your gloves a little. Yeah, so originally they did use real gold. Unfortunately, we can't use real gold, so this is inspired. So we're gonna paint over the cracks with a nice gold paint later on while this glues together, since this takes a little bit more time and patience. Depending on if you have like kind of a missing hole, like a really small hole in the bowl or not, it's up to you. You can either leave it, or if it's small enough, you can kind of try to fill it in with super glue. If it'll just sit, and then you'll let it dry, and we'll try and once it dries, kind of just paint over it. Like I said, if not, you can just leave it, and that can be kind of just part of it. Okay. So once you have all your pieces and they're holding, they're not like falling out, you're going to just set it aside. Again, if you had glue going, like cuts going along the bottom, you don't want them to glue the table. So please make sure you put like a paper towel or something down while it's drying so it does not stick to your table since it is super glue. And then just go ahead and set it aside. We're gonna let that dry. It does take a while since it is super glue, and then we are going to move on to another craft. So this one's basically to start just the patience of gluing it together. If you decide you would like to try this in a different way, another technique you can use is there is other glue options that do dry a little bit faster. They could be a little bit more toxic, so you want to be very careful using them, but there are other kind of inspirational DIY techniques you can use. So once you're done, go ahead and set it aside to dry, and then we will come back to it to paint it later. If you try and paint with the wet super glue, it's not going to work out so well. Okay, hopefully you guys have had time to kind of set the plate aside and get the sunagashi ready. I'm pretty excited about this one. It's really easy and you can make some really cool stuff. Hopefully out of it, I mean, you come with a beautiful marbled paper. For those of you who did see, you might have noticed in your kit that we brought a frame for you guys in there. So if you want to frame it, kind of how we had it displayed in the gift shop, you can. If you want to gift it to someone, or I mean, I've seen people do some pretty good cool things with the paper that they marble, depending on how it looks. You can even Mod Podge around the frame if you want and create a decorative frame, make it into a card. It's so easy and comes out so beautifully. So out here I kind of just have a bunch of examples and I'll go over them later. But so hopefully you have all your stuff. You should have your 2 blank pieces of paper that are already pre-cut to fit in the frame if that's what you would like to do. Your 2 colors of ink. They're in these little canisters. Everyone's colors are different, kind of just in there randomly. And then you should also have your small blue paintbrush. And again, your gloves, it's not permanent, but it will, if you do get it on your hands, it will leave you with some dyed nails and fingernails for a couple hours, but it'll come off. Again, make sure you have something down to protect your table just in case, or don't wear any white clothes. So it's pretty simple to start. I already added the water into this. It can just be sink water. It doesn't matter temperature. At the least, you want to at least cover the bottom of the container we provided you with. But it can go up as long as it's no more than like an inch from the top, just enough. And then you'll take your paintbrush and your coloring. This would be the one if you want to have a paper towel on the side. It's not a bad idea. With this ink, a little bit goes a long way. You really do not need a lot. So you're going to start by just taking your brush and dipping into whatever color you want to start with, and just barely breaking it into the surface of the water. There we go. I've noticed that each ink color bleeds a little differently. Some kind of stay more concentrated when you dip them in, and some will bleed out really quickly immediately. Depending on your colors, I don't really want to mix, like for me, my red and my yellow, so I'm kind of brushing it off. Sorry, someone just left a comment. It was pretty good. From the kintsugi part 1, someone had mentioned that the hardest part of the kintsugi part 1 was to just get the super glue open. Thank you for commenting. We love it. So what you'll kind of want to do with this is, like for me, when I was making kind of the examples, just pick 3 points that you're going to dip in, right? And what you're going to do is continue to dip in those exact same 3 points each time. And as you get more of a design, then you can kind of start adding more colors in and filling as you go. But just start with your 3 points. You can also do 2. Keep in mind how big the size of the paper is also. So you're trying to get a design you like in that amount of space. So I'm going to do my next color. Just dip. Just need a little bit. You'll notice as you put it in the surface, just kind of goes. Your other option is also, since a little goes a long way, if you do prefer not to dip, you can do droplets. So you'd want to close obviously one of the colors at a time. And I can't stress enough, just such small droplets that if you wanted to do it that way instead, you'd want just one small drop as you go. Let's see if I can get a small one. Ooh, that was a little bit bigger. Same 3 spots. There we go. Okay. So you'll notice if you decide to do the droplets that you'll have much stronger of colors. I'm gonna wipe the ink off so I don't get anything on the table. It's hard to see, but if you could see my container, it almost looks like the majority of the ink I dropped hits the bottom. It still covers the top, it hits the bottom, so if you want that color to be kind of stronger, you can always take this and kind of swirl it around in the big ink in the bottom, it'll just bring more to the top. Oh, this ink is just Sumagashi ink. Like if you, someone's asking what kind of ink it is specifically Sumagashi ink. So you can go online if you'd like and purchase it there. They have lots of different options. You could buy huge bottles of it, like small bottles of it. Use some more yellow. Open my yellow side back up. I'm gonna use the dipping more. Go back to my points. And I'm kind of just mixing some things around in it. You can even lightly blow on the surface of the water and it'll kind of move the ink around, which is fun. Just to get a design that you like. So I'm gonna just, and if you blow on it just very lightly. Open my red back up. Thank you for commenting, by the way. I do enjoy reading your guys' comments. Okay, well, I keep kind of messing with my design until I get something I like. I'm gonna have Leilani talk a little bit more about the history of this technique.
So for Sumagashi, the origin and development of marbling was practiced in Japan as early as the 12th century. It literally translates to ink floating. It quickly became a well-respected art form and was used to accent calligraphy and haiku poetry.
Yeah, and if you guys really like this and decide you want to keep trying it, the ink really does go a long way. So even if you get a small canister, you will get a lot out of it, I would say, to kind of try and mess around with it. Some people are really talented in this technique and make, you know, things that look like flowers, or you can get really good at it and do some really neat things with it. Yeah, and don't be afraid to use your paintbrush to just kind of like swirl around and watch the ink kind of mold together. Okay, a little bit more yellow. Yeah, for those of you guys who have the red ink like I do, I feel like it spreads really fast. Like you dip it in and it just goes, where the yellow is just kind of more concentrated. A little bit more. Okay. I think I've got something I like. So it's a little bit of a timing game too. Yeah, see, better to have this on your gloves than on your nails. So once you get a design you like, you're gonna take your paper, hold it directly over the water, place it over kind of the ink design you're trying to capture, and slowly let it down. Okay, now this is where it can get messy. Once all four corners have hit down, so everything has it, you just carefully pick it up, and it will have captured the design of the ink pretty quickly. I'm gonna kind of dab this off, and then I'll hold it a little closer to the screen so you can see. This is what I got. Okay, and then I'm gonna have to set it down. Some drying things I've noticed. So if you let it dry on a paper towel, it does dry just fine. I've noticed that it will pull some of the color away from it. Not a ton, but a little bit will kind of pull, of the ink will pull into the paper towel. You can hang dry it if you would like. That's another great option. Obviously, the longer it sits in the water, the more likely, the more wet it's gotten, the more likely it is to kind of crinkle a little bit around the edges when it dries. So if you have another surface you want to dry it on, one that won't pull out the ink from it or the moisture, you can do that as well. The nice part is you'll probably notice after you drop the ink, you still have ink inside here. You can reuse it if you want or add to it. So like this one was one that I did with a bunch of different colors immediately. You can see that it's really bright. Without adding anything, I directly dropped another piece of paper into it, the same ink. So you can see it's the same colors and it still came out with a nice design, but it's just not going to be as brilliant in color. Or you can kind of add to it and drop it again is another option. I just kind of played around with one. Here's one that has black for those of you who got black ink into it. This was something a little other user error discovered. I accidentally got the paper wet before I dropped it in, so it didn't kind of catch the ink the same way. So it does need to be a dry piece of paper. But yeah, there's all different kinds of ones. This one was just the blue and yellow for those of you who have the blue and yellow ink. This was kind of interesting. You'll notice the stronger colors in the center, but it is still blue here. That is if you mix around your ink and make all the water one color, that's kind of what you'll get. And then you can still do stronger colors within it. But yeah, it's pretty fun. And I feel like a little bit can give you a whole assortment of options to play around with. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions about this one, before we move on to the next one, please comment and so I can answer them for you. I'll leave kind of a few minutes in case someone wants to comment. Or you can even comment and tell me what you're gonna do with your paper that you've done. Or if your ink, I don't know, the red seemed to just really spread where the yellow is more concentrated. If you have any comments on the ink. There are specific suminogashi brushes that you can purchase. They're wider with a bigger brush on the bottom. You can use those if you'd like. I've seen watched an assortment of videos. Some people do use different objects to make designs with it. Some people will use a needle to make really thin cuts in the ink. There's all kinds of things you can do. So next we are going to do the ornament tutorial, which I'm pretty excited for because I do think it comes out really well. And if you put them in a tree, it will be really pretty, or a nice gift, or you could use it as decoration. But I do want to touch, someone did ask a question regarding to the last craft of the sumonagashi, in what paper to use. So I personally just use printer paper, and that's what's provided for you in your kit. So for the most part, anything will work. I'm sure the lighter the base of the paper is, the better. Obviously, if you do a thicker construction paper in different color, it might not pull the colors as well. But for the most part, you can do anything as long as it's not a really waxy paper. So if you just have printer paper at home, that works great. Okay, so for the ornament, you're going to need your 2 pieces of pre-cut origami paper, your 2 popsicle sticks. There should be a colored ribbon in there somewhere, your glue stick, and then you will want, hopefully if you didn't use all the super glue from the first craft, the Kintsugi part 1, this comes in handy too. You do not have to use super glue for this. It's just faster if you use it on some parts, but not all of it, so that is optional. And then these are the fun little fan ornaments that we are making. So I have made a couple for example, so you can kind of see, for those of you who only saw it through Instagram or online, kind of what they look like. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with just 1 piece of the paper. You're going to fold it into a accordion fold, if you can kind of see. I'm sure we've all done these. The important part is that you do it this way. Do not hold the paper this way and fold it. You want it to be a longer piece. So you're going to take it. The fold should be about 1/4 inch. The smaller the better, since these are small ornament fans. So I'm going to make my first fold into the paper. You may have noticed that I do not have gloves on. You don't have to use gloves for this one unless you prefer to. It's just a little easier to fold the paper, so you can kind of see I made the first fold. And I'm going to flip it the other way. Okay. And just keep doing this process. It's going to take a little bit to do all these folds, because once you do finish this paper, we will move on to the second. As you may have noticed, this is not an origami technique, a traditional one, but we are using origami paper. It's inspired for beautiful holiday or Thanksgiving designs on them. So while I am doing these folds, I will have Leilani give you some background on actual origami.
Okay, so origami was initially known as orikata, which means folded shapes. In 1880, however, the craft became known as origami. The term origami comes from the Japanese words oru, to fold, and kami, paper. The Japanese first used paper during the 6th century. It is true that other cultures engaged in various forms of paper folding, but it was the Japanese who first discovered the possibilities associated with using paper as a medium for art. Origami works often featured flowers, birds, and other nature-based motifs.
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys, if you remember Here You Come a lot, we definitely do different origami tutorials. If you've noticed, there was a community project down in the Inamori Pavilion right now, the 1,000 Cranes. That came together really beautifully. Okay, so here is my first one all finished. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the second one. And I believe there are tons of origami papers, different qualities, styles, prints. That's something you decide that you want to get into. I believe there are ones that are pretty affordable that you can buy packs of and kind of get started that way. Tons of tutorials online as well. As I have learned personally, cranes are really difficult, so give yourself a break when you're first attempting, especially the smaller the paper. Yeah, feel free to comment if you guys do any origami and what shapes you like to make. I just taught myself how to do a butterfly. Looked much better than my attempt at doing cranes. Okay. Almost done with the folding. And once you're done folding, the next supply you're going to need is your popsicle sticks and or super glue or glue stick. Okay, so here's the second one. Okay, I have noticed after making a few too, it takes longer. It's a little harder to get precise, but the smaller the fold, I would say looks nicer, more full. So then you're gonna take your two pieces, and what you're gonna do is we're gonna glue them together to make a more full fan. So basically, you're gonna attach them by the ends here. So for this part, I am going to use the glue stick, not the super glue. I'm just gonna glue inside on the white of it, inside the fold. Okay. Just enough to make sure it sticks. Okay, and then I'm gonna take that and just set it right inside the crease that I just glued. I'm gonna press it down, make sure the glue sticks inside it firmly. Once you feel like it's kind of glued together, just make sure it still has its accordion shape to it. Make sure it can still come together. Kind of press it together, make sure it has good folds in it. And now it's one longer. If it looks like it's coming apart, just add a little bit more glue. There we go. This is mine. It's a lot longer now. Just gonna give it a second for that glue to really stick to the paper and dry. So I do not want it to come up. Add a little bit more. Okay. So now that it is all glued together, just be very careful with it while that glue is still drying. Have it here. Now here's where the two popsicle sticks come into play. So you're gonna lay your kind of accordion paper down, the printed side down flat. So the white piece of paper should be sticking up. You take your popsicle stick, and remember this is gonna hold the sides of the fan on it, so a certain amount of it does need to stick out from the bottom of the fan. So I am going to put glue on both sides of the upper part of the popsicle stick, just one, to glue it into the paper, but don't go all the way down. We're just gonna do the top. I'll kind of show you what I'm doing because these lower parts are gonna stick out and become the base of your fan ornament. So I'm just going to add the glue. Okay. Get kind of all the sides of the top of it. So now it's all glued up. Hopefully you guys can see me doing this. Just gonna set, you'll notice the ends of your fans are sticking up like this. You're just gonna set it into this direction, just straight into one of them. So, just so you guys can kind of see, I just stuck it directly into one like that. It's gonna go right in that crease, and I'm just gonna press the paper against it. Notice a lot of the popsicle's still sticking out from the bottom. I'm just press that paper onto your glued popsicle stick. Okay, so since I've glued it into that little accordion piece, it looks like, I don't know if you guys can see, like this. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same to the other side, just make sure it's stuck onto your paper. Same thing, next stick. Get lots of glue on it. Okay. I know it's kind of hard, but just eye it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try and make sure the same amount of popsicle stick is sticking out on each side. So one's not longer than the other per se. Really gotta press that paper onto the stick. Make sure it's glued on there nice and tight. Add some more glue. If you don't have time and do have gloves, yes, super glue works a lot faster for this portion on the wood. We're just gonna do it this way. Okay. So we'll kind of see both sides are glued now. This is what I have. Looks like this in the back. Pull it from the paper. Still got the popsicle stick sticking out from the bottom. Okay. Once I feel like it's secured enough, and I am going to use my super glue for this part. You do not have to. It just takes a little longer if you do the other way. You are just going to cross your popsicle sticks. Make sure you get that accordion flat. Okay, mine got a little, I'm gonna repress it into that accordion shape together and get that good shape. Okay, so now I'm just gonna cross the popsicle sticks. They flip them flat, so they're obviously not sticking out like this, but like this over each other. I'll kind of get closer and show you. See how they're flat and overlapping each other in the back? You'll notice the more I kind of pull them up, the bigger the fan gets, more narrow. So I liked it spread out and looking kind of big and full, so I'm gonna pull them more apart. Also, how much you move the sticks makes a difference too, how close and far together. Gonna press, get my, one more time. Okay. Get the width you like. So the two glue sticks, the two popsicle sticks need to glue together. That's gonna hold the shape. So once you've kind of figured out how narrow or wide you want it, just try and glue it in the right spot so you can get those popsicle sticks to stay. Just a tiny, tiny bit of super glue works, or glue stick does work also. You just have to hold it a little bit longer. Okay, so I like it right there. Even, oop. All right, we'll glue it back down. I'm using super glue this time. Again. Okay, hold it. With the super glue, you always have to kind of hold it in place till it dries with some firmness. This is kind of what I got. Until you feel like it's good to go. And like I said, it definitely does work with just the regular glue stick. I did do that the first time. Okay, a little bit more if it's not really sticking. How are you guys doing? Is it working okay for you? Prefer the glue stick or the super glue? Okay. Okay. Just not wanting to stick. I'm gonna try the glue stick for this one. Okay. So once you get it stuck, we're going to add the ribbon. So get that ready if you don't already. Okay, there's a couple different options with this. So on the ones in the examples, you'll notice I have the ribbon down here at the bottom for decoration. It doesn't have to do that because it kind of depends if you're using it for an ornament or decoration or just setting it in the tree. The ribbon's just kind of a nice touch. So if you prefer to hang it up straight in your tree, you can always, you know, kind of punch a hole in it and tie the ribbon up here as like the actual ribbon to hang it as an ornament. Obviously you can hang it upside down, or if you're just setting it in the tree, that works too. I'm going to just tie the ornament at the bottom. You'll notice there's kind of like the hole in between. Just stick it through there. You can kind of tie it how you'd like, of course. So I'm just gonna make a little knot and do another one in the front so I can do a bow in the front, some sort. Plus it just kind of decorates the popsicle stick a little bit more. Let me know how you guys decide to do this also, if you're gonna kind of hole punch at the top or if you like how it looks at the bottom. Everyone's like a little bit different. Everyone's ribbons are a little bit different colors. But yeah, so this is the finished product of it. I know everyone's paper looks a little bit different. Depending on how you like it, I thought it would be kind of cute too if you set them on your table. For those of you celebrating next week, like a little ornamentation, decorative table stuff, or tree. But yeah, that's it. That one takes a little bit more time, but it comes out really nice. So hopefully you guys had the chance to get ready for the next one. I know that one kind of took a little longer. This one is the kumihimo. So this is a braid, which has quite a big history. But I have my wheel, which you're going to want to get out. And then you should have your 2 colors of string. So for those of you who kind of saw online but didn't see in person, here's kind of an example. It can be a bracelet or kind of do with it what you want. And there's a little crane charm on it. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is unwrap your string. With all of your colors, again, everyone kind of got a different color at random. We tried to choose ones with contrast because it shows up the best in the braid. This is if you have scissors. If you do not, you just need to kind of pull them apart. Let's get them ready. It depends on how long you want to make them. I would say anywhere between 12 to 16 inches long of string is good cuts to make. You're going to need 8 total, so 4 of each color. About 12 to 16 inches, you can kind of just estimate. Don't have to be perfect. So make sure, like I said, that you have 4 of each color. Just gonna kind of lay them out, make sure I have enough. So again, it's just, it's more of a braiding technique, so it does not have to be a bracelet. I've seen some where you can make it and then tie it around a gift as decoration. I've seen people make belts. Obviously how big the string is and the type of the string makes a difference. Okay, so once you've made sure that you have your 8 pieces, kind of get them all at the same starting point and just put them in one big group. And then you're just going to make a knot at the end to tie them all together. So just a general knot. Make sure it's tight. Okay, so just put a small knot in there. Got my 2 colors. Some of you probably noticed on your directions it says a weight is optional and there is a paper clip in your bag. So what that is for, I have kind of an example one. You're going to, you do not have to use a weight, but if you'd like to, just put a key of some sort on the bottom of this. I'm just gonna do the charm, but I would do something heavier personally. It just helps keep the braiding tight. So I've used a key or keychain, whatever works. Okay, and you're just gonna slip it into the knot you've made. Don't put it within the top, like of the loose braids. You want it in the knot or below. Again, this is optional. You do not have to do this. Okay. So then you have your provided wheel. You're gonna string it through so your weight is on the bottom. You're gonna pull all your strings through the center of it. Okay. This one I'm gonna be holding up to the screen a lot. I'm sure you've noticed there's a lot of numbers on this wheel as well as arrows. So what you're gonna do, just choose one color, it doesn't matter. Just pick one. I'm gonna start with my green. And you're gonna string it through, hold it closer. And I'm gonna stick the same color, one of the green strings, two of the green strings, and the other one on each side of the number 1. So you can kind of see it looks like this. And then I'm gonna take my second 2 green strings and put them down on each side of the 17. So on each side of the 1 and each side of the 17. If it's helpful, you'll notice that both the 1 and 17 have small little triangles cut off the top of them to help identify your starting points. So pull the string really tight. So you'll see the string is pulled very tight. Okay. Once you have those, you're gonna move on to your purple strings for me, so your alternate color for you. And you are gonna put it in the same process on each side of the 8. This one is gonna take a little bit more time. Once I explain it, it's more of repetition. So this is something you could definitely do sitting in front of the TV. Take my other side and put it on each side of the 24. Okay, and again, both the 8 and the 24 have small triangles cut out of the top of them as well to help identify them. Okay, so now that they're pulled nice and tight, this is what it looks like. See, there's no slack on any of the string. You can see the colors, and if you have a weight at the bottom, you can see the arrows. Hopefully it'll focus out. Okay, so it's a pretty redundant process. I'm teaching you one technique of the kumihimo braiding, but there are other ones, so you can always go online and look up more options to create a different effect in the braid. So now that you have your strings already, this is where the arrows kind of come into play. So you're always going to be moving in the directions of the arrows on the wheel. Speaking of the wheels, you can also purchase foam wheels online if you would like. I just made them out of cardboard for yours. It works just as well. The ones online vary in pricing, but if you have cardboard at home and can make it, it tends to just be a more affordable way. Okay, so first I'm going to take the green string at the 1 that's on the right of the 1, and I'm going to move it down into the slot on the 16. So sorry if you can see, I moved it up from up here and down. So now I have 3 strings on the bottom, and now it's by the 16. Okay, so now that I have this, I'm going to take the string that's by the 18, in between 17 and 18, and move it up into the slot between 31 and 32. So I went down and up. So you kind of see what it looks like now. Hopefully this number reference helps for you guys. Now that I have done that, you're going to turn in the direction of the arrows. Turn your wheel that way. So now you should be on to the purple. Sorry, make sure your strings don't get knotted up when doing this. Okay, so since I'm turning in the direction of the arrows, now you should have your 24 at the top and your 8 at the bottom. You're going to take your other colored string that's in between 24 and 25 and move it down between 6 and 7. So now kind of the same process. It looks like this. And then I'm going to take the string that's between 8 and 9 and move it up between 22 and 23. Again, make sure your strings are nice and tight. So now it looks like this. Notice there's no slack on the wheel at all. Okay. Got this on the bottom. Again, turn the wheel once you've done that in the direction of the arrows. Now you should have 16 at the top and 32 at the bottom. I'm going to take the string that's in between 16 and 17 and move it down between 30 and 31. Again, the one between 30 and 31, make sure strings are always tight. Now I'm going to take the one in between 32 and 1 and move it between 14 and 15. So it's a down, up, turn, down, up. So I'm going to turn again. Taking this string that's between 7 and 8, moving it between 21 and 22. Example. Okay. Taking the string between 23 and 24, moving it between 5 and 6. Again, you notice top's tight, no slack in any of these strings. Turn your wheel. The string that's between 31 and 32, between 13 and 14. String that's between 15 and 16, moving up between 29 and 30. See how there is a tiny bit of slack in this string right here? It can kind of move. Make sure before you move on, you pull it tight, tighten it out so it should be flat. Turn right and continue. So it's kind of just a continuous process. Try not to lose your place and start somewhere else. Just try and move on the right. And you kind of just keep going how I remember. So if I have to step away, I'll leave it kind of, this one doesn't have the numbers on it, but like this. So I know I've already moved one down and I need to move this one up. So if you're gonna walk away and you don't wanna forget how to do it, kind of leave one out of 3 so you know that you need to move the other one up. And if you know you're always turning it in the same direction, then you'll kind of know how to work from there. So I started this one earlier, so you can kind of see it on how it looks. It's contrasting colors kind of comes into play. And you can kind of keep going as long as you would like. It does take some time. This one I did work on for a while. So kind of some tips and tricks if you continue to do this. This one you can see is much thinner. This is the size of the one you're doing, how thick it'll come out. For this one, it's the exact same. I just wanted it to come out a thicker band, so I doubled the string. So it's still the same amount, but there's 2 in each row so that it came out to a thicker braid. So that's always an option if you don't want to do a thicker type of yarn or string. Okay. So once you get it to a desired length, I know you guys are still working, it'll take some time, but so you guys can go back and watch this, but once you get it to a desired length of what you would like, it's pretty simple. You're gonna grasp, once it's still like this, at where you've left off, hold it tight, remove all the strings from the wheel, you have it like this. You have a couple options. You can either add the crane charm on into the string and then tie it off, or if you want to add it to later if you're going to use it, but you just knot it off. Same process you did at the beginning. Try not to let it come undone. Okay. Get it nice and tight, and voila. And then you can kind of do with it as you please. Obviously, if you pull it apart, it'll get a little bit longer. If you want it to stay thicker, don't yank on it so much. With this specific one with the charm, I'm gonna do it so you can see how I chose to do it. I had done the original knotting, knotted it off, left some space, added another knot, so that you could just push the crane and the knot right through as a hold. Okay, kind of like this. See, kind of did 2 knots, so you could just push the other knot through to hold. If you have clasps at home, you can always use that if you're doing a bracelet. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I know that one is a little bit more complicated, so please comment if you have more questions. I'm going to have Leilani kind of go over the history why I kind of continue to do the repetitiveness. You can kind of see it.
So, kumihimo can be translated as gathering of threads, and the earliest kumihimo in Japan is generally believed to date back to the Nara period. Braids were used for securing clothing and possibly also used in religious ceremonies. A samurai suit of armor required approximately 250 to 300 meters, which is about 280 to 300 yards of braid.
So like I said, once you kind of get the hang of it, this is something you can kind of do while watching TV if you like, because you'll just kind of keep doing the same steps over and over again until you get to the desired length that you'd like. Yeah, the biggest thing I can stress with this is just always make sure the string is tight on top before continuing. Otherwise, the braid won't come out as nice. Okay, so I got some slacks. I'm going to pull it a little tighter. It's always helpful to kind of always make sure your strings aren't knotting as you're going through. Strings. You'll kind of know as the more you go, you'll notice the strings get looser faster. Just keep pulling them tight. And eventually you'll see the pattern start to form. Remember, if you're going to walk away and you don't want to lose your place, always put one down and leave it like this. So that way you know when you come back, you need to move this side up and you're always working in this direction. Okay? Like I said, I know this one's a little bit more complicated, so please comment if you have questions for me. Any tips? So we got a question. Any tips if you get lost? If you stepped away and you didn't keep going, you'll kind of, I know it's hard to see on here, but like this string, when you look at it from the base, it's separated. That means I have already done that pattern. And when you turn and start doing the next, it does bring those back together. So see how that, when I did do the green one, these purple ones became more of a triangle shape. That's how you know I still need to do them, because the ones that are done do have more of a gap. And just keep remembering, if you're always turning in the same direction, that's the way you're working from. If you really just can't remember, you might notice a slight change in the pattern. I believe I did do that on my practice one, but it really won't be too noticeable. Obviously, the more you do this, the more you kind of notice differences and can kind of figure out. You can always use the numbers. I usually memorize just kind of more the pattern of it, but you can just do purely numbers and remember the pattern of numbers that as you work around. But that would be my tip. But yeah, the leaving one as a 3 is how I have left it and remembered to come back. So that would just be my recommendation. If you're gonna step away, leave the 3 strings down so you know which one you need to do next. Any other questions? I'll kind of give you guys a chance to do that. And just in case, because I forgot to give myself an introduction, for those of you who don't know me, I am Mariah and I work here at the garden. If you have questions about this art kit at all, please feel free to call me or email me at volunteer@niwa.org. Okay. So hopefully that was enough time for everyone. I know that last craft was probably the most difficult and time consuming. So hopefully you've had enough time. This one will be much simpler, I promise, and a lot less items. So we're going to do furoshiki, which is a Japanese wrapping technique. You'll notice that all of your fabric is different, all different prints, which is kind of fun. Some of your guys's are actually different cuts as well. This one's a little bit longer. Some of you guys have a perfect square. All works, so don't worry about that. For those of you who have, so you'll see it kind of looks like a perfect square, but I have folded it for those of you who have the long ones. So if it's more of this shape, please start by just folding it in half. It does depend on what object you would like to use for this technique. So I'm going to use a latex glove box, or probably similar to the shape of a tissue box. If you have a larger item, then you might need to leave it in its full size. So kind of use what you please. For those of you who have dumped the water from your plastic container from the suminagashi, you can wrap that also, since that is what was used to wrap your entire craft kit. And if you want something on hand, if you have something smaller, that's fine. There is lots of techniques. I'm going to go over one. It's probably the easiest one. But if you enjoy this, I highly recommend going online and looking up some other options. You can wrap all kinds of things this way. If you do not want to use wrapping paper this year for gifts, this is another great option to use. And it's reusable, has lots of functions. You can make reusable bags out of it, wrap wine bottles, all kinds of things. Mostly it's used to wrap bento box lunches, but so if you're all ready, you're going to start. I'm actually going to move my fabric in more of a diamond shape. You can kind of see that. And I'm going to set the glove box directly in the center of it. This one's going to be a lot faster. So what you are going to do to wrap this is take your first corner and wrap it over very tightly, no matter what the shape of the object here is. Try and fold it under, get it nice and tight. This one obviously being having hard edges and a firm structure to it is a lot easier if you are wrapping the plastic container. You'll notice it will be a little bit more difficult, but it's definitely possible. Then you're going to take your next corner and wrap it back over in the same way, kind of like this. Make sure nice and tight. You can fold it under if you would like, kind of fold it. So now you'll see I kind of have the edges sticking out. You do not have to. I kind of tuck the sides in a little bit to make the ends of it more of a triangle shape. I think it just looks nicer when you're folding it. It's kind of like wrapping a present at this point. Just kind of getting it in. Okay. Then you're just going to take your corners and kind of fold them up. Nice and tight. And I am just going to tie this one into a knot. Make sure it's tight. Some of your fabric might need to pull kind of hard to stretch it out. And then just knot it. You'll notice in your craft kit, I did this kind of same technique on all of them, and you did have a bamboo charm on there. That is from Bamboo at JFG that we had made. So do with it if you like. Keychain, ornament, nice little object on there, but it kind of look cute if that's how if you're gonna wrap Christmas gifts that way, you can always add it on there. You'll notice that it does kind of still have this part hanging. That's totally fine. It doesn't have to fold in. It looks like this. So I'm gonna repeat this all over again, and why I'm showing you guys how to do it again, just in case, I'm gonna have Leilani kind of give the background on it while I do it again.
So furoshiki is a square piece of cloth or fabric used for gift wrapping, transporting items, fashion, and home decor. And it dates back to more than 1,200 years old. The custom of using furoshiki dates back as early as the Nara period, when it was used for keeping the valuables of the emperors. In 2006, Japanese Minister of the Environment, Yuriko, promoted furoshiki cloth as an effort to increase environmental awareness and reduce the use of plastic. Now mostly used by Japanese school children to carry bento boxes, it's also used by gift givers around the world as an environmentally friendly way to wrap presents.
Put my last little knot in there. And voila, you're done. Okay, so we are gonna go back to kintsugi for a second for part 2. This would be if your super glue is dry and everything is holding together. If it is not, don't do it yet. That's okay. You can always wait till it dries, and then when this is up on YouTube, go back and watch it. So now that mine's all dry and held together, like I said, if yours is not, that is totally fine, but you do want to wait until it is dry before painting to get this effect. So I'd have my paintbrush again. So if you have that, I cleaned it off from the ink and all from using it earlier. It's good to go. I got all the colored ink out of it and it's dried. And you're gonna need your gold paint. Similar to the ink, very little of this gold paint is going to go a long way. So you're not gonna want to get just globs of paint on it. Start just dipping your paintbrush in very minimally and just kind of starting that way. This one's also gonna take some time. You're gonna wanna go slow, depending on all the cracks you have. Like the one that's finished, you'll notice I kind of had a long one that I did and smaller. I did paint the bottom of this as well. Again, you don't have to. If you want to, you can for detail. So you'll notice this one had some gold paint on it already, the cracks that I've done. So you're just gonna want to go slow, pick a crack. Depending on how good you were at gluing it together, it might be kind of hard to see the breaks. If you feel like you didn't have a lot of breaks and you want more gold, you can always make up your own cracks and just kind of paint it how you would like. I'm just going to start here. Just got the tiniest bit of gold paint. Okay. Again, you just want to go slow with this one. If you notice some of it is still kind of slick, your glue might not be dry yet. Okay. So for this one, you may notice that I'm doing the bottom of my plate first. Since I am doing that, I'm going to have to probably not paint the top of it on the edges. I'm gonna have to let this dry. Once that dry, I'll go back and paint the top areas. Or vice versa, if you started on the top, you're gonna wanna let that dry first and then go back and do the bottom so you don't mess up the paint. And then just a reminder, since we did use super glue on this, these dishes are purely decorative. They're not dishwasher safe. Please don't eat anything off of them. We thought it might look nice when we move on to the next craft to make the kokedama, to set it on there as a dish. That would look nice, or display. But if you break your favorite plate, this is kind of a fun way to keep it and you can display it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of move on to the next. If you have shaky hands like I do, it kind of helps to kind of set it and rest it on the table while you go. Some of the areas I can tell that the glue is not dry. I'm just gonna leave and go back to later. But you can kind of just see, for those of you who have a lighter dish, what it's kind of looking like so far. You can kind of see I have a hole in mine. So what I'm gonna do is, while you guys are working on that, show you the finished one and kind of what I did with the crack in the finished one. Make sure there's no glue on there. So. It's kind of hard to see, but you can, if it'll focus out, there's a little chunk missing in this one. I just filled it with a little bit of glue. Once it dried, just painted over it. So there is a small chunk missing out of it. And same in some of the areas up top, it's hard to see, but feel free just to paint in those divots if you have them, or kind of in the holes. If you tried to fill a hole with the glue, it is gonna take a long time to dry. Understandably. Just gonna kind of paint in these. Try not to mess up the bottom. If you start with the bottom and move to the top. Okay. If you like the look of this and don't have any broken dishes, I guess you can always just take something and paint gold on it, like as if it had broken. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry and try not to get gold paint on the table. that is how you will do that one. Okay, hi guys. So we are on the last craft of the day. So we'll do this tutorial. So I know these went through fast, so don't worry. These are going to be up on the YouTube channel for a couple days. They are going to be in more of a individual video setup though, so you can click on each technique that you specifically want to look at and go through and pause and rewatch. So that will be up for you. So next we're going to do the kokodama ball. So you should have your kokodama ball all empty and ready to go. You notice I just have it on this dish. You do not have to, but this is kind of an example of a way of how you would like to keep your plant once we're done. It's on a dish. It's dressed up with some nice pebbles in the bottom. And you can kind of place it around the house that way. I've also seen it hung through in macrame. That's another really cool way to do it. And you're going to need your plant. I'm going to repot a plant, and then your JFG composted soil. So for those of you who don't know, we do composting here, and all of your soil is composted, and so it has a lot of good stuff for the plant in it. So I know you guys are all kind of replanting different ones, but I'm going to start with this one. This is going to be messy, so if you want to put something down, now's the time, or make sure that it will be decent clean up. I am going to start by just taking some of the soil And you can watch me make a mess. I'm sticking it in the bottom before I replant. Okay. Get some in there. Since this plant's pretty small and doesn't have very big roots, I'm going to try and put a decent amount so it does show outside of the kokedama ball. That should be good. Okay, I'm going to take the plant I am repotting. See, it's going to get real messy. And all of its roots. And get it in there. Okay, and now that I have all the roots in, I'm going to finish off by kind of packing in the holes with the rest of the soil. And while I'm doing that, Leilani will give you some more background on this.
So kokedamas are derived from the old Nirai bonsai method, which is an art form centuries old in gardening. Kokedama translates to moss ball. A wide variety of plants can be used in the making of kokedamas. They can be hung and suspended or displayed on their own base, and the best way to determine if your plant needs water is to feel how heavy it is. When the ball feels light, there's a good chance it needs to be watered.
You can see I'm kind of making a mess here, but that's okay. Pack some more soil in there. An easy way to water this too is to use a spray bottle and just kind of spray around the moss on the outside of it. Nice. Get the roots in. You can definitely make these kokedama balls from scratch with twine and moss if you want to do that. You can also purchase them pre-done or just the balls like we have now. But if you are into macrame, I highly recommend looking into how to do that because these look really cool in macrame. Okay, once you feel like it's good to go, all right, so this is what we got. But you see people, I've seen orchids in these or all kinds of different plants. Obviously your guys' is probably not dried yet, but if you want to use the dish you made, kind of like this one, you can always stick it in your dish and display it like that, and then just use a spray bottle to water it if you'd like. You can stick them virtually wherever you'd like. It just depends more on the type of plant you've tried to plant, and same with watering. Obviously, if you get it or putting in a succulent or such, it's not going to need as much watering as something that will take, a daily watering. And then same thing, just whatever plant you chose to put in here, just make sure you research on that and see what kind of, if it needs constant sunlight, no sunlight, it'll be more up to the plant than necessarily the kokedama ball, as long as you're watering it the correct amount. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty easy. Feel free to post pictures or email me your pictures of what you've done at volunteers@niwa.org. I'd love to see your guys' stuff and plants. Same if you have comments, concerns. But yeah, I hope you guys had fun today. I'm just going to pick up all the mess I've made.